But first, these are strange times. They're hysterical times. We seem so prone to panic now, and not just about global warming. You look at the reaction to this coronavirus that's started in China, has now reached Australia, even though authorities are now checking the temperatures of people flying in. Today, for instance, we read that shares dropped sharply on rising coronavirus concerns. They dropped 1.4%. And this bad news on bad news virus could land a $2.3 billion hit to the economy, with reports that fears the coronavirus could affect the international student market, particularly from China, of course. And indeed, late today, the New South Wales Education Minister asked parents of all children who have been to China in the last 2 weeks not to send their kids to school or daycare. So it's all sounding quite apocalyptic. I'm sure people are a bit scared out there. And that's just what you hear from the mainstream media online. We're seeing lots of fake news about what's going on in China, bodies dropping in the street, etc., on video. But I'm always suspicious when the media pushes panic. Now, I'm not saying that this coronavirus is not a problem. I'm not saying we shouldn't be careful. Yes, indeed. In China, of course, the death toll is now 106, so this virus can kill. But I think a lot of people have a vested interest in beating this up. I mean, journalists, obviously, politicians too. I mean, politicians generally too scared to seem like they're asleep at the wheel and slow to react. There's no votes for them in telling people to calm down, not if things later turn out bad. But I still think there are some things you should know, and things that I hope will stop you or your children from being unnecessarily scared. And first, yes, 106 people in China have died from this, but many were reportedly old and frail, just the kind of people also more likely to die from colds and flus and other viruses just like this every year. In Australia, for instance, 3,500 people die every year just from the flu. And around the world, it's 5 million people every year. Flus are related to this coronavirus. So far, though, just 5 Australians in this great country have got this coronavirus, and none of them are seriously ill. Here's Professor Tanya Sorrell, Director of the Centre for Infectious Diseases at Westmead Hospital, which is treating 4 of those 5 patients.
The patients that are in Westmead Hospital are in fact fairly mild cases, and indeed 2 of the 4 are actually improving at the present time. The other 2 are stable, and part of the reason that they remain isolated in hospital at the moment is while we learn a bit more about the disease and can be confident that it's not likely to be transmitted on.
Now, of course, there's plenty still to find out, but so far, good news, none of these patients have, as far as we know, transmitted the virus to anyone else. And Sorrell also says the Chinese authorities seem to be wrong. People with this virus are not infectious before they show the symptoms, which makes the virus easier to control, of course. Now, most doctors are like politicians. They're risk averse. They don't like saying things like, you know, don't worry, just in case they're wrong, and you'll sue them. But Dr. William Schaffner, he's a professor of preventative medicine and health policy at America's Vanderbilt University Medical Centre. He says, compared to the flu, this coronavirus isn't a big deal. He says coronavirus will be a blip on the horizon in comparison. The risk is trivial. Now, I'm certainly not telling you that this man's right. I'm not an expert. I wouldn't know. Plenty of other people are panicking. But I am pretty sure that a real deadly pandemic would look a lot more deadly than this. And the World Health Organization, for one, says it's not declaring a global pandemic this time, like it did in 2009 for the swine flu that killed up to 500,000 people. And here's more reason to keep calm. The Australian Medical Association says we're actually in good shape to handle whatever this virus seems to be bringing. But, you know, if you think, well, just to be safe, I'll wash my hands, I'll ask colleagues who've got the sniffles to, you know, just stay at home until you're cured, that's all good. That might save you, not just from this coronavirus, but from any number of colds and flus. Flus just as deadly as this, if not more. But there is one more protection I think you should consider. How about building up some resistance? resistance to the emergence of panic, panic about the fires, panic about global warming, panic about this coronavirus, panic about almost anything these days. Please, do you know how bad panic is for your health?